Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Scots on the Run podcast, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at what's happening in the Gordon College cross-country and track and field programs. In this episode, how much do we have to catch up on, Coach Miela? You said 2 weekends, 4 meets?
2 weekends, 4 meets. We got 2 more meets coming up this weekend. Not anticipated when we first started the year to do it this way, but I'd say that's just New England for you. Like, you really have to... You can't just cross your fingers and hope that the weather falls your way. I think you got to make your own luck sometimes.
Sure. So no show last week because we were planning to host our home meet, the Jonathan Tymann Invitational.
Right.
So
I think I said to you, the thought of trying to squeeze in a podcast gave me anxiety because hosting a meet is no easy feat. It's just like anything, you know. Like when somebody's before you're a parent, you think, you know, you look at somebody else's kids and you just think it's like easy. And so like before you have to host a meet, everybody just says, why isn't this running smoother? Why isn't? And then once you start hosting a meet, you have total sympathy for every other meet that you go to. So anyways, whenever we host, we're getting logistics together. I'm answering a ton of emails from different coaches that are coming and things like that. So it's a beast to have to host people, but we did a good job.
Yeah.
So
and then, of course, I was off Thursday and Friday because I had to go down to...
How was that?
It was beautiful, actually.
That's great.
So,
Your sister
my
got married,
sister
right?
got married, yes,
Nice.
which was lovely. But I'm back now. Lizzie Gaskill is joining us as
That's
well.
right.
Lizzie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So you had, I guess we can start.
Yeah.
Your 200 performance was very strong. Tell us about your meet. And again, I wasn't there, obviously, but it looked like similar conditions to our home meet last year in terms of the weather. So take us through trying to deal with that as you ran your 200.
Yeah, I mean, last year it was snowing, raining, and hail. So the Saturday, honestly, in comparison, was pretty good for the freezing rain. I didn't have any morning events, so no long jump, no 100, because I did that on Friday. And so I was just able to focus on the 200. I don't know, I am usually very good at checking the schedule, and we got pretty, we were behind schedule for not, most of the meet, maybe by, 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we were, 20 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
And I freaked out. I was like, oh, no. And I always have, a 30 to 40-minute warm-up, and I wouldn't recommend how long I warmed up on Saturday, but it was in my favor, I guess.
Yeah, it worked out. So, like we mentioned, we have 4 meets to catch up on. Part of that is because we sent Rachel and Carolyn to St. Louis, and then we went to Tufts. That was last weekend, where you just long jumped, which we don't have to talk about that because Tufts last weekend was worse conditions than what we had this past weekend.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, we went to Regis on Friday, and that was a late add to our schedule because it ended up being 65 degrees and sunny. I know I actually got sunburnt, and that was just that was not the plan. But then the next day it was literally 30 degrees and freezing rain at our home meet, and you raced in both of them. So now, and the reason I'm bringing all this up is because Friday, April 4th, we're at Regis. You run 27:02 in the 200 in great conditions, and then just so we're on the same page. And then you PR, you run a PR by almost a quarter of a second. Actually, at least a quarter of a second in worse conditions the very next day. Mm-hmm. So, was it the short warm-up? What made the difference the next day?
I think I wanted redemption.
Yeah.
I did not love how that 200 went on Friday, and I was like, I need to prove to myself that this used to be my favorite event for a reason.
Yeah.
And I know I'm good at it. And I was just so tired on Friday, and I think I let that get to me way too early. And so I was like, it doesn't matter. On Saturday, I need to go out as hard as I can. And I did.
Yeah.
And then I even joked around with Ethan on Saturday. I was like, you were calling who's in first, and then you said Elizabeth, and you were like, wait, Lizzie Gaskill, and I was like, that should be mid-run.
Yeah. You're like, right on, he's getting my name right.
Yeah, I got a little excited.
So we just need to make sure that they call you Lizzie when they're announcing your name, and you'll run well. That's awesome. Well, again, and I think the other thing that needs to be noted that I forgot to say is you're from South Carolina.
Yeah.
So you're not used to racing in these conditions. You're now a sophomore. How have you made that adjustment?
Honestly, like,
Is it even possible?
there's definitely I've noticed a difference. Like when we competed in Myrtle, it wasn't foreign to me at all. I was
Right.
like, this is perfect. Like this
Sure.
is what I remember. Like this is track.
Right,
Hot
right.
weather.
Yep.
Like perfect. And so coming to New England, it was a battle my freshman year to be like, wow. Because we started indoor. I've never had indoor before, so all of it was exciting.
Yep.
And then we go to outdoor, and it was awful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, rainy and cold. And then I just started to, like, accept it. Especially the meets that I do well in when it's cold.
Yep.
And, like, you can't let the weather get in the way because it's just not. And Liv, my teammate, she's like, don't let the cold define you. Because I kept telling her, I was like, I only think I did well at Myrtle because it was hot. And she's like, you're not a better athlete because it was warm. You're
Right.
good because you train. And so
Right.
I take that with me. And I'm just like, if it's cold, it is what it is.
Well, yeah, and so I've got your TFRS page pulled up here, and to that point, all your 200s this year. So this is whether you're at Myrtle or up in New England. All your 200s this year are faster than any 200 you ran last year.
Yeah.
And in the 100, 2 out of the 300s that you have ran this year, 2 of 3 are faster than any of your 100s from last year. I don't know. So again, do you think it's just you're coming in with a better mentality? You're just like knowing it's like, yeah, like you've just stopped letting yourself make that excuse?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a mentality thing. I even started I have a little meet day journal, and I think that's a big change. And when we were at New England's indoor this year, I remember one of my goals I wrote down was a time, and I remember you telling me I don't really love that.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself a time.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I was like, yeah, it's not about the times. Just have fun.
Yeah.
And so my goals for Friday at Regis was enjoy the heat.
Yeah.
Compete.
Yeah.
And have fun. And I did that.
You definitely did. You were the top seed coming out of prelims, and then you won the whole meet on Friday. So,
Yeah.
and I've said that too. It's like if we just go out and compete, usually good things happen. Usually good times will follow, and you don't run, whatever. You don't run sub 26 by thinking about running sub 26 the whole way. You think about executing your race plan and just competing.
Yeah.
And actually, I do agree. You should run better when it's warmer, but the fact that you can run 26:33 in the freezing rain should give you confidence that when it is warm, you're ready. You're ready to go sub 26.
It was very encouraging.
Yeah.
So I, like what Liv said, I was like, now I stick with that, and I honestly, it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. There can't be. I mean, I shouldn't make excuses.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big learning curve is changing your mindset overall.
Yeah.
And I think not having a time, when I finish a race, I'm not going to worry about the time. And
That's
that
good.
was the biggest thing before going into a race is oh, if I don't run this, I did bad. And that's not it.
Right.
Because you can't PR every single meet.
Right.
Some people can. But the closer you get,
Right.
the faster you are, it is so much harder to
Yep.
get those PRs.
Yeah. The faster you get, the farther you throw.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do it. We talk about Rachel. She continues to kind of, defy this kind of principle that we live by. But it is true that the closer you get to reaching your individual, potential or max effort, whatever, the harder it is to push that ceiling up. It then becomes about how am I executing races better to set myself up to have that next breakthrough, not just expecting a big breakthrough every single week, right? I do want to ask you one more question. Again, we mentioned you're from South Carolina. We've been talking about the weather and all that stuff, but what was it about Gordon that made you want to come here, right? You're about to finish your second year. I don't know. What made this the school you wanted to go to?
The fact that you cared,
Okay. Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
as an athlete who's being recruited, I see, I'm talking to multiple coaches, and you, out of all of them, you were the one who cared the most. And you wouldn't even want to talk about just track. You would want to actually get to know the athlete that you're trying to recruit, and I think that's a huge part.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you care now, you're going to care once they become your athlete.
Yeah.
And so that was huge. And I knew the battle of the cold
Sure.
was going to be there.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I love Gordon's community.
Yep.
My sister lives in Boston, so
Yeah.
I knew I would have her around. And she comes to my meets, which is pretty cool. She didn't
cool.
see me compete in high school,
Yeah.
so now she gets to see me in college, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just, like, caring in the community. And, like, the first time I came to Gordon, I had already, like, accepted. So I did.
Yeah.
I was, like, coming to Gordon, I was like, yeah, this is the
This is
place
where I'm going,
already.
yeah. Well, and then, wouldn't you know it, after your first year here, we ended up going down to your home state anyways.
Yeah.
So, so it's worked out for you, and in terms of competing in warmer weather. But I mean, it's good to hear you say that. I just think that's. I mean, I'm still, like, as a coach, you know, we're still people, right? Like, we still, like, care about the individuals we coach, but I also am looking for young men and women that just, like, will fit the culture and the dynamics, and will come in and, you know, be fun to hang out with. You know, track is, you know, it's a long day. It's a long day at the you know, at a track, and you end up hanging out with people a lot. If you don't make friends on your track team, track becomes a very long, grueling sport. But fortunately, I don't think anybody necessarily has that problem. So I thought you were great for the community here, and yeah, it's cool to hear you say that. So
Yeah, I remember I felt that way about Gordon as a whole when I was looking at where I wanted to go, and just felt like God opened every door for me, and I felt like it felt good to feel wanted and feel like people in this community cared about you before you even got here, and so then you knew once you did get here, like you were saying, that it would be the same way.
yeah,
I have one more question for you, and then we'll
Sure.
move on. Last year's meet, the Jonathan Tymann Invitational, was it hailing during your 200?
oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It definitely was.
'Cause I remember one of the first interactions I remember having with you last year was, I think, like, you had just finished your race, and I was standing in the infield with a couple of the
Yes.
guys
And
with
you had
our
an
umbrella.
umbrella.
Yeah, and they were like, "Don't worry about us, go get Lizzie," because
Yeah.
you just run your race.
Yeah.
So.
She ran, and for the record there, April 6, 2024, running in the freezing hail into a minus 1.2 headwind. Lizzie Gaskill ran 28:36. Almost a year later to the day, she ran 26:33, so over 2 seconds faster. So that's funny. That'll be good to look back on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, years from now when we look back at your first outdoor 200. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Rachel is obviously a great example of someone who just, as great as she is, continues to set the bar even higher and break her own records. And
Right.
obviously she's a distance runner, but Alivia Geraghty, I think, is doing the same thing
Yep.
on the throw side. Tell us about her recent
Yeah.
meets and breaking that 50-meter mark.
Yeah, so I think coming into the year, her PR was like 46, 48, something like that. It was like in the mid 46s. And when you improve in your weight throw by 1.5 meters in indoors, you kind of know, like, you're expecting a big performance. So she's been up at the 49s. But, you know, I think our goal has always been to see that 5.0. And so it's funny. The last time she kind of had a big PR like this was at our conference meet last year. And the same thing happened. We heard 4.6 and everybody erupted, and you didn't hear exactly like what happened after that. So we didn't even, it was like everybody afterwards was the same. It was the same thing. It was like 50. What was it? 50 point what? 50 point what? So she threw 50:36. I forget where she was last. I think she was like 18th in the nation or something like that. 14th in the nation. And our goal is to add a few more meters. And I don't think our program has sent anybody other than a distance athlete to a national meet. So between Alivia and Amaris, you know, those are probably our best two that have the best shot, and that's part of, you know, the many goals of, you know, the boxes we want to check this year, but certainly obviously in the coming years in our program. So
Yeah. So on that note, what can we look forward to coming back for the team.
So Rachel, and I'll start by answering what has happened
Sure.
to get us going forward. But Rachel and Carolyn went to St. Louis. They ran at the Washington University Invitational, and that's like a big distance invitational. Rachel got second in that meet, which puts her. At last I checked, she was second in the nation in the 10K with a 34:28, and Carolyn Day went from a low 38-minute 10K to a high 36. I think she ran 36:53. I'm not sure, something like that. So she ran over a minute PR in that race. So certainly worth sending our top two distance girls there. And we certainly hope that Rachel and Carolyn kind of keep that momentum going. Carolyn's racing at the elite distance race on Friday night down at Conn College. And Rachel's really, at this point, she's gearing up for nationals, and everything is pointing towards her trying to be a national champion in the 10K, right? So, this upcoming weekend, we added Bridgewater on Friday to our meet schedule, partly because Conn College's schedule is a little funky, but also going down for Friday, coming back up, it's a 2-hour commute versus going to Bridgewater, which I believe is close to an hour, and it just makes it a little easier on some of our competitors, but also gives some people a chance to get multiple reps in than just the one race through the weekend. We'll race Friday, Saturday. So it's kind of weird. The way we've done our schedule so far this outdoor season, we're practicing less, we're competing more, so we're getting more practice reps in, competition reps in. And I don't know. What do you think about that? Are you liking the amount of competitions you're getting in at this point?
Oh yeah, I love it. When you added Regis, I was very excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I as we 2 weeks from Friday we host our conference meet. So as we get closer to that moment, I think we are tried and tested, right? We'll be ready. We've competed enough. I think everybody will have had their race routines dialed in, and then it'll be additionally helpful that we're at our home track, so everybody be nice and comfortable. So I think we'll be primed and ready for a big day at our conference meet in a couple weeks.
A whole thing this year, not just a steeplechase, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly. Not just steeple. We will have steeple. We'll have it all. We'll just not just
Wonderful.
the one 3K steeplechase. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, before we go, you want to shout out your grandfather?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I totally meant to mix that in somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I
Does
know.
he know you're
He's
coming on?
definitely listening to this.
He doesn't know right now that I'm doing this,
Okay.
but the moment he sees the photo on Instagram, he's gonna text me and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're on it."
Oh my gosh.
He's gonna be stoked.
Yeah.
But my grandfather, Rich Gaskill, comments on every Instagram post for Gordon Track and Field, and he listens to every single podcast, and he is, I'm pretty sure, the first listener every single time because he'll text me about it.
Oh, I believe it. I'd say, people have, there's fan favorites for athletes. I think he's an athlete favorite, in the reverse way. I think our entire team, he's the number one pick in terms of Gordon College fans. I think all our entire team loves him. So we got to get him up here for conference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Rich, we know you're listening. Get up here. We'll put you in the booth even. If it's too cold, we'll put him in the booth. Get him going up there.
I think he'd love it.
I think he'd love it too. Our little VIP for the day.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people listen to our podcasts on Spotify. We also put these on YouTube if people prefer there. The channel has 3 comments since we've been doing this.
Yeah, let's hear them.
They're all from Rich.
That's awesome.
So he said this was after conference last year, I guess. Amherst and Henry were on. He said, "Fantastic podcast. Congratulations, coaches, Amherst, Henry, and the rest of our athletes." And then when Chewy was on a few months ago, just said, "Great work, team." And the last time Amherst and Olivia were on, he commented, "Loving it. Go Gordon."
Yes, hey.
So
yeah,
we appreciate the support.
Yeah, man. You gotta get, like I said, come on up here, Rich. We're ready for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all, especially Rich, for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.